celebrating 48 years on the air. Award-winning Farmweek is a production of Mississippi State University Extension.
Today on Farm Week, an issue likely to be on the radar for some time, the tariff seesaw. Plus, citrus harvests have been way down for years, but when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, right? In Southern gardening this Valentine's Day, wear your heart on your sleeve with a bleeding heart vine. And in our feature, we're off to Picayune, Mississippi, where the Crosby Arboretum takes another bow. Farm Week starts right now.
Hello everyone, I'm Zach Ashmore.
And I'm Mike Russell. Great to have you with us again here on Farm Week. Tariff talk all the rage, heightened as action against Canada, Mexico, and China set to launch. Then the president hit pause on 2 of those mortar rounds, revenue rainmakers or strong-arm tactics. Peter Tubbs reports.
A sweeping new tariff on Chinese goods is expected to raise consumer prices in the United States. President Trump placed an additional 10% tariff on Chinese imports the day after he paused threatened tariffs on Canada and Mexico for 30 days. China quickly announced retaliatory tariffs on imports from America with a 15% duty on coal and liquefied natural gas and a 10% tariff on crude oil, agricultural machinery, and large engine cars. Those tariffs took effect on Monday, February 3rd.
China is trying to project itself not only as one of the biggest markets in the world, but also from the supply chain perspective, it is one of the biggest manufacturers in many products, especially in the upstream. So I think the combination of using the selected tariff, export control, and the restriction on market access to certain U.S. firms basically reflect that China is trying to increase its bargaining chips and show the U.S. that is a capability in terms of the negotiation process.
The Trump administration and China exchanged multiple rounds of tariffs during a 2018 tariff war. Soybean producers took a large financial hit before negotiations restored those markets, and those producers received federal payments to help make them whole. The new tariffs currently do not cover agricultural commodities from the United States. President Trump quickly reversed tariff threats towards Canada and Mexico on Monday when the 2 countries agreed to increase security measures along their respective borders. The 30-day pause on new import duties will allow all sides to negotiate new terms, as well as giving businesses in all 3 countries a chance to stockpile parts and materials before the deadline. The United States-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, the current treaty governing North American trade that was negotiated by the Trump administration and signed into law in 2019, is up for renegotiation in 2026. Some critics see President Trump's current tariff move as the start of those negotiations. If tariffs are placed on Canadian imports, it could become a pinch point for agriculture due to the potential for higher prices being placed on fertilizer. The United States imports over 85% of its potash supply from Canada. The cost of any tariff products imported from other countries is paid by American importers and consumers.
Tariff talk remains a hot button. Opinions about the effectiveness of tariffs varied and visceral. The president believes in them, and he's known as a tough deal maker, will continue to follow.
Did you see the big game? The Super Bowl is one of the biggest sporting events of the year, and with that comes opportunity. Snacks, food, drinks, all of that comes from agricultural producers. But just how much are they expected to make? Here's a special report. The Super Bowl, one of the biggest sporting events of the year and an opportunity for fans to gather, eat, drink, and celebrate together. In 2024, consumers spent about $17 billion, and 80% of that went to food and beverage sales, netting about $13.5 billion. It's no secret American farmers and ranchers benefit from these sales, but to what extent? According to the USDA, NASS, and the American Farmers Union, the producers of food goods are getting less than 15 cents for every dollar of food sales. That amounts to about 14 cents for a bag of tortilla chips, almost $1.50 for a jar of salsa, and nearly $2 for a pound of hamburger meat. Beer sales are the lowest, only netting about 6 cents per 12-pack. Chicken wings, one of the most popular game snacks, are expected to bring in about $561 million, with $89 million going back to the producer, according to Farms.com. And it's not just foodstuffs that ag plays a part in. The football itself, made from leather, and although a common nickname for the ball is pigskin, it's actually made from cowhide. According to Wilson, the official supplier of NFL footballs, 120 different footballs will be used on Sunday's game, requiring 12 cowhides, usually sourced from Iowa, Kansas, or Nebraska, as one cowhide can make 10 footballs.
Here's a few more facts for you. There were about 11 million pounds of potato chips and 8 million pounds of tortilla chips eaten during game day. That's about 45 million pounds of potatoes and 70 million pounds of corn.
Imagine if 90% of Mississippi's corn and soybean production was wiped out because of unmanageable row crop disease. Florida's citrus producers have faced this exact scenario, but now researchers are hoping to make lemonade from lemons. Colleen Bradford-Krantz has more.
Ron English had spent 35 years as production manager at his family's Florida citrus business when the state was hit by citrus greening, a disease that has ravaged Florida's iconic orange and grapefruit industry.
About 2015, we decided that greening had hurt us enough to where the quality of the fruit wasn't there, and when it hit us hard. It didn't gradually go out. All that we did to try to, what we knew to do to keep the trees alive didn't work. So we made a decision just to shut our operation down. My father-in-law and our family had been in since 1895.
Life-changing decisions like this one have become common across Florida since citrus greening, also referred to as HLB, emerged in 2005. Since that time, producers in the state have lost 63% of their citrus-bearing acres. While some owners of those 429,000 acres of former groves switched to other forms of agriculture or kept the land, others sold to developers.
We were able to sell something we didn't want to do, where we once have groves or subdivisions, strip centers, malls.
Citrus greening, caused by a bacteria spread by the tiny, non-native Asian citrus psyllid, destroys orange, grapefruit, tangerine, and other citrus trees. But English has found himself back in an orange grove, feeling hopeful. He oversees a test grove for a company called Soil Sia, which has licensed the rights to further develop and commercialize precision-bred citrus trees from the University of Florida. Plant biologist Nian Wong and university colleagues used CRISPR technology, a genome editing tool, to develop trees that can still survive and produce fruit despite exposure to the devastating bacteria. If successful, these genetically edited trees and rootstock could revive citrus production in Florida and save it elsewhere. So far, researchers say the trees that result from precision breeding look much healthier than the control trees. As for Ron English, he is once again optimistic that his grandchildren might someday have the opportunity to get the family back into the citrus business.
This, what we're doing, is the key to getting back. And once we can get people started and start planting, I think it'll catch on.
Glimmer of hope. Let's hope it does catch on. We will have an extended version of this story on the show in 2 weeks. We hope you'll join us for that and more on Farm Week.
Here's a southern gardening story perfect for Valentine's Day. Bleeding heart vines aren't a political statement. They're colorful, non-invasive vines that blend well with everything else in your yard and enhance garden health. Here's Eddie Smith with more.
Are you looking for a gift for your plant-loving Valentine? Consider giving them a bleeding heart vine for Valentine's Day. The red and white bleeding heart vines are stunning tropical climbers known for their vibrant flowers that symbolize love and passion. making them an exceptional choice for Valentine's Day. The red bleeding heart vine features vivid red, tubular flowers surrounded by contrasting pink, papery bracts, creating a dramatic and eye-catching display. This fast-growing vine can reach 10 to 15 feet when supported, making it perfect for trellises, pergolas, or hanging baskets. Similarly, the white bleeding heart vine is equally impressive, with bright red blooms enclosed in white bracts, providing a striking floral display. These vines bloom prolifically in fall and winter, creating cascading clusters of flowers that attract butterflies and hummingbirds, adding life and beauty to any setting. Their heart-shaped blooms and lush foliage make them a meaningful and romantic gift, symbolizing enduring love and affection. Ideal for growing indoors or outdoors in warm climates, zones 9 through 11, they can also be potted and brought indoors in cooler areas, ensuring year-round enjoyment. Red and white bleeding heart vines are a unique and thoughtful Valentine's gift that grows more beautiful with care, much like love itself. I'm Eddie Smith, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Southern Gardening.
We'll take a break right here, but don't go away. Coming up on our Farm Week feature, a very special encore about what many in Mississippi call a natural beauty. It's the CROSBY Arboretum in Picayune, a living memorial showcasing ecosystems across the landscape, an art form all by itself. Come with us to Picayune. It's a trip you won't soon forget. Another example of just how extension matters. The CROSBY Arboretum. That's coming up on Farm Week. Don't go away.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations and their faith. I believe in my own work and in the opportunity I have to make my life useful to humanity. I believe that education is a lifelong process, and the greatest university is the home. That my success as a teacher is proportional to those qualities of mind and spirit that give me welcome entrance to the homes of the families that I serve. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations and their faith. I believed that education, of which extension work is an essential part, is basic in stimulating individual initiative, self-determination, and leadership. I believe that these are the keys to democracy, and that people, when given facts they understand, will act not only in their self-interest, but also in the interest of society. I believe in intellectual freedom to search for and present the truth without bias and with courteous tolerance towards the views of others. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
Time for the market report. Prices still mostly going up, especially in row crops.
That's what the futures are telling us, especially in grains, going through a bullish run leading up to the next WASDE report, while livestock kind of lagging a bit. We'll get into it, but first, the numbers. What were the week's biggest gains and losses? And then MSU ag economist Dr. Josh Maples talks to us about cattle prices. We dive deep into the implication of several USDA reports. So, markets closed the week continuing its upward movement. Row crops getting the best of it while livestock split. Let's take a look. The week's biggest gain, wheat up 23 1/4 cents and over 4% increase from the previous week. The week's biggest loss, live cattle, down nearly 5.5 cents. That's nearly a 3% decrease from the previous week. This week, we take a closer look at several recent USDA reports telling us about cattle stocks in the U.S. In short, all cattle and calves down 1% over the course of last year, highlighting an ongoing herd rebuild due to a massive culling several years ago brought on by extensive drought, an issue some are still recovering from. I spoke with Extension livestock economist Dr. Josh Maples to get his insight into what this means and what we can look towards this year.
That's right. So down 1% in terms of all cattle and calves. Not really surprising in terms of it being down. You know, I think if you talk to producers around Mississippi and around the country, you don't get the sense of big expansion plans going on, despite the fact that we have really, really strong prices right now. So we're at that point in this cycle where everybody's asking the question, when does expansion occur, or when does it begin? So yeah, total cattle inventory at 86.7 million head. If you look at the beef cow number, which is the one that I really like to track, 27.9 million head of beef cows. This is the lowest total since 1961, I believe. So about 60 plus years, fewest number of beef cows we've had in the U.S. I don't think we've got any signals here of expansion in this report. I do, if I was pressed to make a comment about it, I would say that we're starting to maybe see liquidation, not as fast. So liquidation is slowing, not yet to the point of expansion, but I do think liquidation is slowing a bit.
And by liquidation, we mean slaughter, or is that something different?
So just in terms of total number of, we're on about 5 or 6 years now of smaller herd sizes every year. And so liquidation in terms of we're not holding back as many heifers to be replacements, and that's something really interesting about this report. Heifers held back for beef cow replacements was also down about 1%. So fewer cows out there, fewer heifers held back to become producing cows the next year. All of these signs point to a smaller herd, a smaller calf crop, smaller beef availability. But it does appear that it's smaller, yes, but the trajectory seems to be moving towards maybe we're not shrinking by as much as we have been, if that makes sense.
It does, and it kind of gets me thinking, what are the producers telling us with this? I mean, why is the herd continuously getting smaller? Is there something going on that we're not seeing?
Oh, I think we're seeing it. I mean, I think we're seeing the higher production cost has been a big thing for producers. And this industry just takes a long time to turn. I mean, the production cycle on producing that calf is 2 or more years in advance. You know, a producer has to make the decision, I'm going to keep this heifer instead of sell the heifer to become beef. And then they have to develop that heifer, and then they have to breed that heifer, and then the heifer has to calf, and then there's the weaning period that comes after that. So it's a long production lag in this industry. And so higher production costs, we had a period of really low prices from 18 through about 21. And producers tightened up their herd sizes then. And so we're starting to see things turn. We're not quite to the point where I'm comfortable saying we're expanding, but it just takes a while. And the really high prices we're seeing right now that's the incentive. That's the incentive to expand.
And the latest cattle on feed report does back up what you're saying on that, saying that, cattle on feed is down 1% and placements are down 3% compared to 2023 in this regard. So, what are we looking forward to here?
Yeah, so I think 2025 is going to be really interesting to watch in terms of, do we see producers hold back a few more of those heifers than they have been? We saw the culling rate go down last year. 2023, really high cow culling year. We culled a lot of cows. 2024 didn't cull near as many. We came down quite a bit from where we were in 23. That tells you producers kept a few more cows in the herd that they didn't the previous year. It's going to be interesting to watch that this year. These high prices may encourage producers, instead of culling that cow, maybe I want to try to get a calf out of her this year because that calf is going to be worth a lot. And then the same thing on the heifer side. Do we see producers hold back a few more of those heifers? Those are going to be the things to watch when we start thinking about projecting beef supplies and cattle supplies into the future.
And that's it for a deeper look into the markets. Looks like cattle prices, although down recently, will continue reacting to a small herd slowly rebuilding. Mike?
Thanks, Zach.
And now a great encore made possible by producers Brian Utley and Jonah Holland. It's about the Crosby Arboretum in Picayune, an absolutely gorgeous place in Pearl River County worth visiting. It's also about the strong support from this woman, Ruth Cook, a volunteer and donor. Take a look.
The Arboretum is natural beauty. It's an art form in its own way. Basically, once you come here and you start experiencing some of the, whether it's the workshops or just the trails and enjoying nature, it just seeps in and sticks with you. I'm Ruth Cook. I am born and bred in Mississippi. Went to Mississippi State University and actually studied forestry. There are many a time that I drive down Interstate 59 on the way to New Orleans. You see the sign and you think, I need to stop there one day. And about 2000, I stopped and I never left. This arboretum is showcasing different natural ecosystems that you would see, and if you really search them out across the landscape of South Mississippi.
The Crosby Arboretum is a living memorial to forward-thinking timber pioneer L.O. Crosby Jr. by his family, and this was one of his favorite sites. This 64-acre parcel, 20 of that is in savanna grasslands, and about 40 acres is in woods. So it's the woodland exhibit, the savanna exhibit, and the aquatic exhibit that we're standing on this bridge for the slough and going into the Piney Woods Pond is about another 4 acres or so.
The Arboretum's mission meshes extremely well with MSU Extension. Extension and what goes on here is real. I think people go, oh, well, I can Google that, or I can go and look at a YouTube video. It's real. They can come down here and they can get the ear of Pat, or they can get the ear of Eddie. You know, it's real. It's not just watching a video.
Volunteers and donors are critical to the Arboretum. I have pictures of Ruth with a set of loppers coming down here and cleaning up after hurricane, and so she'll do everything from the basic pruning and helping out that way, helping with events. From the little to the large is how she helps with our exhibits.
Miss Ruth has been a big supporter of the Crosby Arboretum since I've known her, which is about 10 years now, and she's volunteered her personal time, and she's also volunteered as serving as president of the Crosby Board, Crosby Foundation, and she's been really good at helping find funding for a lot of different programs that are carried on here at the Arboretum.
When you work here and you've worked with other volunteers and you've worked with some of the founders that had this dream and had this idea to create this spot, it creates memories. I mean, I don't just see this gum pond or this beaver pond, or I see the people that were behind some of the ideas, the people that were behind the funding, the people that were on the end of a shovel helping, create projects.
The Arboretum would not be in the place that it is today without having donors like Ruth and without having Ruth. If I see Ruth at the gum pond, I know that she is in the very center of where she feels the heart of the Arboretum is. That is her special place. And the bridge, to be able to see the bridge come to a reality, I know gave her great personal satisfaction, and she is a vital part of it, and her heart is here.
I do see a sense of pride in what we have accomplished here. The exhibits that we've gotten to add to the Arboretum, I think, has gotten us attention, has gotten us more volunteers, more attendees. We are creating and impacting people in the future. It is a legacy, and I think it's an honor to the ones that have come before me. I love this place. I love what it stands for, and I love the mission that it's out there making happen.
And they have every reason to be proud. Great job, Ruth, the heart of a volunteer. Well, next week, a change of pace.
It's the inspiring story during this Black History Month 2025. It's the story of Dr. Harold Greer, as you'll see, the first African American to earn a PhD here at Mississippi State University.
This piece was produced back in 2017, and all of it is told in the sometimes emotional words of Dr. Greer himself. They call him a pioneer, and we think you'll agree. Join us for this special feature, Dr. Harold Greer. That's next time on Farm Week.
Remember, if you missed a story, look for past episodes of Farm Week on our website at farmweek.tv.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. See you next week. Thanks for watching.